All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to talk about something much bigger than just school reform. We're asking a really fundamental question about what education in India is even for. How do we get from just memorizing facts to actually truly understanding things? This quote, wow, it really just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? The problem isn't that kids memorize things. The real tragedy, the thing we need to fix, is that they're doing it all without a sense of purpose, without the why. And that's the challenge we're unpacking today. The source material for this doesn't just call this a problem. It uses a much heavier term, a civilizational fracture. It's this idea that there's a deep, painful crack between how India used to think about learning and how we actually do it now. Okay, this is a huge point. Rote learning, the endless memorization, it's not an accident. It's not a mistake. The system we have is basically a giant sorting machine, designed to rank and filter huge numbers of students. And what's the easiest way to do that? Simple memorization and recall. It's a feature, not a bug. So if today's system is basically a giant filter, what was the alternative? What did an education driven by purpose actually look like? Well, to understand that, we need to look back. Not to get all nostalgic, but to really get our heads around a totally different way of thinking about learning. The Gurukula system, it wasn't about getting through a syllabus or passing a test. It was about shaping who you are as a person. Learning was all about relationships, with your teacher, with the world around you, with truth itself. Knowledge wasn't just information you downloaded. It was something you had to realize for yourself and then live out every single day. And this chart just lays it out perfectly. Look at the difference in purpose. On one side, you have awakening the mind's ability to discern, what they called buddhi. On the other, filtering people for jobs. The method goes from conversation and practice to just memorizing. And the outcome? It's the difference between real wisdom and a piece of paper that says you have knowledge. They're just worlds apart. I love this line. So simple, but so powerful. In that old system, the education was tailored to the student. It bent to fit the child, not the other way around. Why? Because the goal wasn't to churn out identical products. It was to help each unique person reach their full potential. Okay, so let's snap back to today. We've seen the ideal from the past. Now let's look at the reality of the present. A system that has so many students trapped in this endless cycle of memorizing, getting ranked, and the constant fear that comes along with it all. And this leads us to a really painful question, one that I think bothers a lot of us. We all know that kids are naturally curious and smart. So why does our education system, a system that's supposed to help them learn, produce so much anxiety and failure? And here's the answer. It's devastatingly simple. Fear. Fear is like the hidden subject in every class. When the pressure is always on, your brain literally stops being curious and just goes into defense mode. Learning becomes about survival, not discovery. The great educator Paulo Freire had a name for this. He called it the banking model. And it's such a perfect metaphor, right? The teacher's job is to deposit information into your head, and then on exam day, you withdraw it. It's completely passive, and there's no room for questioning or actual thinking. And maybe the wildest part of all this is that the whole system is built for someone who doesn't even exist, the average student. By designing everything for this statistical myth, we automatically create a system that fails almost everyone, because nobody is perfectly average. I mean, let's be real for a second. We've all done this, right? Asked, is this going to be on the test? Instead of asking, why is this important? That one little question shows you everything. It shows how this system can rewire our brains to care more about passing a test than about actually learning something. Okay, so we've looked at the problem from a few different angles. It's a big one, but let's not get stuck there. How do we actually start to fix it? Let's talk about the cure, the big shifts we need to make to get back to real, deep understanding. From what I can see in the source material, the path forward really comes down to 3 huge moves. First, we have to change the entire purpose of education. Second, we have to completely rethink how we measure learning. And third, we have to empower our teachers to be real guides, not just information dispensers. So let's tackle that first one, purpose. Right now, it feels like it's all about content delivery. But what if we shifted the goal to consciousness development? What if we stopped trying to create exam-ready candidates and started trying to cultivate aware, responsible human beings? This question just cuts through all the noise. Seriously, think about it.
The phone in your pocket can remember more facts than any person in history. So why on earth are we still basing our entire system on testing a kid's ability to memorize random facts? It just makes no sense.
So, what do we do instead? Well, there are so many options. Things like open book exams, where it's not about what you remember, but how you use information. Oral exams, where you can actually hear if a student understands something. Or learning portfolios, which show how a student has grown over time, not just their score on one single day. Okay, but big ideas are one thing. Making them happen in the real world is something else entirely. This brings us to the most critical question. Where does this kind of massive change actually start? Well, it's probably not where you think. Real, lasting change doesn't come from the top down. It's a bottom-up movement. It starts in single classrooms and individual schools, with brave teachers and leaders who create these little islands of excellence. They become the living proof that a better way is possible, and that's what inspires everyone else. And here's the best part. This isn't about needing tons of money or fancy technology. Look at these simple, zero-cost ideas. Asking better questions, teaching one thing deeply instead of 10 things on the surface. And the most important one, reducing fear first. These are changes in mindset, not in budget. And that really brings us to the bottom line. Let this one sink in. A scared child cannot think. A scared child can memorize, they can obey, but they cannot truly think critically, ask questions, or create anything new. So before anything else, we have to make our classrooms feel safe. So I'll just leave you with this final thought to ponder. What if? What if we actually built an education system where the main goal wasn't just to produce good test takers, but to cultivate a generation of curious, courageous, and compassionate thinkers? Just imagine what a future built by them would look like.